Welcome, Unlimited fans, to round 2 of May 8th locals at Valkyrie Vault in Brownsburg, Indiana, where today, on this side of the board, we got for you all Asajj Ventress Green. And on this side of the board, we got Boba Fett Yellow. Anyways, before we jump right into the game, let's discuss these two leaders and the deck strategies. The strategy around Asajj Ventress. Asajj Ventress is one of the piloting leaders from JTL that states, action tapper, you can deal 1 damage to one of your own units and then 1 damage to a unit in that same arena. So if you deal 1 damage to a space unit, you can deal 1 damage to your opponent's space unit. She is a grit leader, so the entirety of this deck is about the grit archetype. So cards that come down with grit on it, and then using Asajj to pump up that grit damage that they can utilize. Anyways, Asajj Ventress does get to come out on, I believe, 5 or 6, and then she can attach it to a vehicle, giving it a nice big old buff with it, and then basically does the exact same thing where she can damage herself while she's on the vehicle, and then she's naturally a grit leader on this side of the board, and as an upgrade. Boba Fett! This is the heroic Boba Fett, so Boba Yellow. Over here, this Boba Fett is all about getting a +1 to cards with a keyword, whether that be ambush, whether that be hidden, whether that be restore. This whole deck is about keywords. Now, the strategy of this deck so far I've seen around is just spam ambush. That's what we spam. We spam literally the ambush keyword. Everything in here, ambush, ambush, ambush. This was a contender to be a nuisance deck against Django Yellow, or Django Tarkentown back in the day, because Django Tarkentown needed stuff on the board to trigger his ability to rest from your opponent's stuff. Well, if there's not things on the board to rest, or hit damage to rest, then there's not really much of a use. This one, these are both kind of janky leaders. I do think this one has a little more viability, just because the fact is that all those keywords do get a +1 to it, and I believe he also awakens at 6 as well, and does kind of the exact same thing on his front side. He just gives the buff of keywords. So anyways, without further ado, let's jump in. Our opponents have both resource apologies for the glare in this video here. But anyways, we do have come down. We have the L337 coming down, getting the shield. Typically, it would try to rescue something, but there's nothing to rescue. As we do have the Speeder Bike Man. Speeder Bike, the Scout Biker is going to come on down. We're then going to trigger Asajj's ability. Asajj's ability is then going to tap itself, deal 1 damage to Speeder Bike, and then knock out that shield off L337. This Scout does have grit attached to it, so right now it is swinging for 3 damage. Sorry, no, 2 damage on it right now. Anyways, we're going to go to the X337, triggering Boba Fett by resting it, then give a +1 to it. We're going to immediately knock out the good old-fashioned Speeder Bike guy. Immediately then trigger the effect because to get the +1, and then we're going to swing 2 damage onto the base through the L337. Then we're going to trigger Asajj to knock out the Super Laser Technician, and doing the 1 damage to it, knocking out, getting it as a resource, and then knocking out the X34 Speeder. Again, this entire deck is about ambush and about keywords here on Boba, unlike Asajj, which is about grit strategies. Certain ways, again, not a really bad strategy here to ambush into all your opponent's stuff, but the problem is ambushing into a bunch of things that have grit is exactly what I would call a great idea. But anyways, 2 more damage coming down from L337. As we see a tap of 4, we're going to choose Chilson to show 2 blue cards. Chilson's going to come in with 2 experience tokens. Chilson is also a Sentinel as well. So anyways, we're going to immediately bring into this other one. I forget I think it's like Rearmored. I know it's from the Boba Fett series that people call the Power Rangers or something like that. But anyways, it's going to come down. It does have the grit here. And does have the ambush and does have a raid on it as well. So basically, you could pump it up with the Boba Fett, but there's not really a point to do it. But anyways, after, of course, swinging in, killing off the Chilson, because Chilson was only a 4/4. Typically, you want to show 4 blue cards when you play down Chilson, so Chilson is a 6/6. So anyways, we're going to play 4 more. We're going to show Chilson. We're going to show the exact same 2 blue cards we did before. 2 more experience tokens on the Chilson. Anyways, we're going to then bring out the lackeys. Lackeys are then immediately going to ambush and kill off good old Chilson here. And then we're going to bring down the Enforcers. The Enforcers are also a grit leader with bounty on them. So anyways, again, another 2 damage from 𝐿337. We're then going to go into Resilient to get that +3 extra health onto whatever we have. Because again, we are talking about grit here. So anyways, Asajj once again attacking. Anyways, the opponent on the Asajj side is looking for a vehicle because it is better to equip Asajj to a vehicle rather than have Asajj down as a unit. So anyways, we have, of course, the Enforcers. The Enforcers now we're going to do Spark of Rebellion because we can do that, but thanks to the fact that we are yellow-green right now. Anyways, we have an Overwhelming Barrage and an Avenger. So the Avenger is going to go away here, keeping the Overwhelming Barrage, which right now isn't really overly impactful. But I said we're going to do it just to get the extra damage going. Then we're going to knock out 𝐿337, and we're going to be able to get that extra +2 onto our Enforcer. Anyways, we got another 𝐿337 here, getting another shield. We can then use Asajj again. Asajj to ping 1 more damage on the Enforcer. Again, Resilient giving an extra +3 health, as we have now Mr. Boba Fett coming down and helping out with all of those keywords. Again, I believe now they should be at 6. So anyways, we have the Enforcer knocking out 𝐿337 to get the extra +2 health there. Again, having and going up to 7 health isn't all that bad. There's not much we can do it. So anyways, we're going to knock out, and we're going to be able to trigger. So I think my opponent is discussing about the fact is that of course the Boba is going to just swing in there, is going to die to the fact because that is one big massive grit guy, and then the bounty is going to go off to allow the Boba player to draw 1 off of the bounty off of the Enforcer. So anyways, not much really else to do here. As we see, they have one of the good cards actually equipped under Asajj. They do have the N1 Starfighter. And that's going to come down again on grit. It does gain to allow to, does have the grit ability here as well. It's not a very powerful grit. We're going to have jamming. Jamming is going to be useless here. Jamming is different than Spark of Rebellion. Spark of Rebellion just rips any card out. The jamming looks for event cards from our opponent's hand, which is still not bad overall. We have Lando's Millennium Falcon, or Millennium Falcon, but this is Lando's version of it. Nonetheless, it's still Millennium Falcon coming down, ambushing into the N1 Starfighter. We're going to use Asajj Ventress again to deal the damage, and then Asajj is going to come out. She does give a +3/+4, as well as she's a 4/6 grit leader. Unfortunately, she doesn't get her ability to deal herself damage unless she's attached to a vehicle, which again, unfortunately, meant that the Starfighter had to die here off of that Millennium Falcon. Which I wish they gave it Lando's Millennium Falcon, so you can split it a little differently between other Millennium Falcons. Anyway, Spark of Rebellion to look at a Super Laser Technician and a Seasoned Fleet Admiral, which only really helps if there's a bunch of vehicles on the board. No, it's whenever your opponent, I think, plays 2 or more things for turns. Anyway, strike true on to, surprise strike on the Falcon, swinging in with the Asajj here. We're going to go with the Fireball, nothing else, but the Fireball will have to deal 1 damage to itself as well. But anyways, I'm pretty sure the game 1 looks to maybe be going into of course, the Boba leader. But anyways, the problem is the Fireball on the regroup phase does have to deal 1 damage to it, but does have, of course, the keyword. Anyways, we have U-Wing Assault coming down here as well. So we're going to look at the top 10 cards, and we're going to be able to play up to a bunch of guys. I believe that is 7 or less, I believe. I can't remember what U-Wing's requirement for costing out guys. So anyways, we're going to bring out Echo-based Defender. So those are 6. So I believe, yeah, it is up to, I believe, at least 6. Anyways, we're then going to trigger the effect of good old Boba here. Boba to give a +1 to Lando's Falcon because it does have the keyword of ambush. Anyways, Asajj to come down and smash into, of course, the our good one of the Echo-based defenders, and then that's now going to be able to allow Asajj to become even bigger because now the grit effect is active here. We're going to go to an Enforcer. We're going to have the Fireball to swing 3 damage into the base here. So unfortunately, the Fireball will start damaging itself as well, as is one of the interesting vehicles normally played in more of a 𝐂𝐍𝐶 strategy because 𝐂𝐶 can turn off the effect. But unfortunately, I think my opponent has definitely, the Boba leader has definitely got the effect right now to win the game because Lando's Falcon and the Fireball. So anyways, Fireball does deal itself its 1 damage this turn. So basically, Fireball in 2 turns will be killing itself off the board. But unfortunately, I don't think 2 turns is very much left when there's only a 30-point base on the Asajj Ventress player side of it. So I think we're 100% going to go out. And anyways, I think that is a surprise strike, and that is game 1 going to, yep, it was a surprise strike. Game 1 going to Boba. Here we go for game number 2. It looks like Asajj is going to start off when we're going to have an N1 Starfighter immediately coming out. We have the Fireball coming down as well, immediately knocking out the N1 Starfighter. putting 2 damage back in the fireball, meaning that it will soon kill itself off the board. And there goes the fireball, killing itself off the board on the regrouping phase. I believe my opponent might have just missed that one regroup damage, but that doesn't really matter. The surprise strike basically on the Landos Falcon into that game. Anyways, we're going to have a Outland TIE Fighter, mainly going to then follow it up with a Eager Escort to mainly knock out the Outland TIE Fighter. Unfortunately, Outland TIE Fighter didn't really have a target to give that experience token to. So right now, things aren't going too well on the Asajj Ventress side, as, like I said, the Boba side is all about just bring in a bunch of guys. We got the Jam to immediately get rid of Power of the Dark Side, because again, that's a really strong, good control card on Blue Villain's side of the board. Anyways, once again, the Outland TIE Fighter is kind of just being played out for kind of nothing, because there's really not much the Outland TIE Fighter can do. Anyways, we have an X-34 Speeder coming down as well. Again, nothing to really ambush into it, but again, the Boba can tap himself to give that +1 to the Speeder so that it can get that effect off. Anyways, we're going to tap 2 here. We're going to go, looks like my opponent was just figuring out resourcing there. Again, until resource done. We got a Wookiee. Wookiee's coming down on the tree, I think, tender or someone like that. But anyways, doesn't matter. The lackeys come down and are going to kill off the healer there. And then basically we're going to then deal 2 damage off the Outland TIE Fighter. Boba did allow for the Speeder to get a +1 there, because again, it has the keyword ambush or resilient onto that. Then we're going to tap Asajj to get it it just deals an 8-1 damage. Huh? I thought it was into the area, but guess not. That's my bad. But nonetheless, here we go. 1 damage to the Outland TIE Fighter, again, using resilience to help beef up its health. Because again, the Asajj can actually attach to this and start dealing the damage, so you want to make sure you have plenty of health on the vehicle that you're going to utilize with it. But anyways, Lackey's coming in for its 5 damage points. Here, so anyways, Asajj dealing 1 more damage to the Outland and then basically knocking it out. Asajj can come out this turn. We have the Jam. So basically, Jam Communications. We have the, that does hurt there. We do lose the Rival's Fall. It is quite painful there, because Boba does get to come out this turn. Asajj is going to attach to the Outland TIE Fighter. Asajj does have the grit on herself as well, so basically we are going to be able to utilize that. Echo-based Defender, giving the +1, because we did play a guy with a keyword on it, giving the +1 to the X-34, dealing 1 more damage. Asajj is then going to swing in with its grit effect, dealing a whole bunch of damage here. As we go up to 10, Boba coming down now as well. So now we have Boba Fett onto the ground here. We're going to have Claim Initiative on the Asajj Ventress side of the board, and our opponent on the Asajj Ventress side is got up to 16 damage, to 10 damage on the other side. But again, Asajj Ventress being able to now damage itself, and when it attacks, being able to once again push up that damage threshold on that TIE Vanguard. The TIE Vanguard, and basically being able to do way more damage. But the problem is when you have Boba being able to power up a 4-2 to a 4-2, and we got Maul coming down. He's going to knock out and kill off the Echo-based Defender. That's really good there. That is a good kill for itself. Anyways, we're then going to deal the overwhelm damage from a good old Maul. That is going to be 4 overwhelm damage of a Maul. Boba Fett's armor on Boba Fett. And we're going to immediately deal 1 damage to Asajj, and then deal all that damage. Then good, going up to 23 on the opponent's side of the board, as we now have putting now 22 on the or 25 on Asajj's side of the board. I'm not exactly sure how they're going to get out of it, but it looks like, oh right, no. The game does officially end here, because technically the opponent over here did claim the initiative. Then they just swing in with the Asajj. The Asajj basically ends them there. So we have a 1-1 game going into game number 3. Welcome to game number 3, folks. Here, as we're probably going to be starting off with the Boba leader, but I would be surprised more or less if the Ventress leader goes first here, because again, Boba Fett is so reactive for the fact of everything. So it looks like, yes, the Ventress leader is going to be getting the first here. Again, the fact of the matter is that Boba Fett is so reactive because it's playing so many cards with ambush in its trait that it's kind of reactive to your opponent doing something like that. But nonetheless, we got a Fireball starting off on the board presence here. A good old nothing normal, about a good old 2-drop that basically can ambush into the space, which is really good, especially for heroic cunning heroic strategies. Anyways, we got a Wookiee, 3 damage coming in onto the base. The Fireball will deal 1 damage to itself after it resolves attack. Then we're going to deal 1 damage to the Wookiee, 1 damage then to I think they actually messed it up. Let me go get an Asajj. So I did check it, folks. Asajj only actually does the damage in the same arena here. As we basically see another fireball coming down on the board, as it looks like we had 𝐒𝐬𝐀𝐿 to return a card back to hand and then kill off the other guy. So anyways, killing off the Wookiee with the 𝐒𝐬𝐀𝐿. Anyways, again, Asajj also is actually how I said it originally. Asajj does damage to a card in the same arena. Anyways, jam communication. Looks like we have a Riotous Fall and a Overwhelming Barrage. So the Overwhelming Barrage is probably the best target out of the two there, as my camera decides to stop focusing once again. Oh well, it focused for a good chunk of time. Oh well. Anyways, we're going to then deal 2 damage there from, it looks like the gorillas. The gorillas are coming down. It looks like we have all 3 indirect damage coming down onto our good friend, the Fleet Lieutenant, because again, if the gorillas do deal any 1 indirect damage to the base, they immediately get to restand here. So once again, sorry for the blurriness and sorry for the glare as well on our Boba player side of the board as my... Oh no, sorry, it wasn't a gorillas. I was like, it's actually an 𝐂𝐷34. About to say, I think that would be a little different. But anyways, 2 damage off the 𝐂𝐷34 into, of course, the Fleet Lieutenant, the seasoned Fleet Admiral. But anyways, here we go. Fireball at 2 damage as well as 1 damage onto the 𝐂𝐷34. Anyways, we're going to go Riotous Fall on the Fireball. Very interesting when you could have just let it swing and then kill itself off 1 more turn. But anyways, we're going to swing and kill off the seasoned Admiral off the board. There's not really much else our Ventress player can really do here. So I guess that's just going to be a claim, allowing the Boba player to basically do whatever they want, which is going to bring out the lackeys. And then we're basically going to then draw 2 cards and move on to the next round. Anyways, I'm seeing that right now. It looks like it's an uphill battle right now for the Asajj player, which again, it's kind of impactful, the fact that that's kind of how we would expect it, especially in a deck strategy, as we show 2 cards here and get 2 experience tokens on the Charleston. That's kind of what I would expect from this strategy. We see the Cloud come down and immediately knock out the Charleston, getting that +1 buff off of good old Boba Fett here. And then we're going to bring down another Wookiee, because again, the entirety of the Asajj's deck strategy is all about grit, hitting the Wookiee, knocking out the speeder. So that's not a problem anymore, because again, now we'll actually use Asajj Ventress' effect correct, unlike game 2, where we didn't exactly use Asajj Ventress' effect correct. So anyways, we have the damage coming down, then we're going to go 𝐒𝐬𝐀𝐿. Oh no, sorry, that's 𝐒𝐈𝐒. So anyways, we're going to have a 𝐒𝐈𝐒 come down and knock that immediately out of the board. I immediately return the Wookiee, so that it's pretty much pointless. I wonder if the other time was a 𝐒𝐒𝐒. I doubt they would have used them on 𝐒�𝐿, because I think you have to return an Underworld card, and I don't remember if they actually had an Underworld card down there. But nonetheless, there's not much you can really do here. The Asajj Ventress player is up the board right now with only dealing 4 damage to the Boba player's Fett's deck here. And then we still have the lackeys, and we have Boba Fett now being both on the board, controlling up the board state. Sorry for my dog in the background. But anyways, see what we're going to do now as we decide to resource here. Not much else the Asajj player can really do. They are up an uphill battle. We're going to go power the dark side to the side 1. There's no doubt about it, the lackeys are the one that is going to get immediately murked off here. Boba did 4 damage to the base. And now we have 21 damage to the base. We're going to tap 2. We're going to bring out the speeder. Here, we're going to then tap, it looks like, everything. For then Han Solo. Han Solo is going to immediately murk off that speeder. Again, Han Solo's ability is that when he attacks, he basically, as long as he kills off the object, he does not deal combat damage. As we have Asajj hitting the Wookiee for 1 damage, and then hitting good old Han Solo for 1 damage. But there's really no way that the Asajj Ventress player is going to be able to beat both a Boba Fett and a Han Solo here. Han is a 6/6 and Boba Fett is a 4/7. So anyways, we're going to swing in the 6 damage off of that. There's really not much else that the Ventress player can really do, except probably just consider scooping up here. Anyways, 1 more damage, 1 damage on Han Solo. And that's really all they really wrote, because again, now we have the 4 damage off of that, and Boba Fett takes the win. But nonetheless, glad to see both these decks got to be some play here. The problem for the Asajj Ventress deck is that it was playing against a deck that's very reactive in its gameplay. Again, all of its stuff being having ambush, having basically almost all of this deck is just ambush. It's just ambush, 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 ambush. Again, Asajj doesn't get going and it can't see vehicles and it can't keep its stuff to grit damage it and then deal that 1 damage everywhere. It really doesn't have a stand the chances. We saw that what this deck really is good at, controlling the board state and then basically forcing your opponent to have to out that board state. Now, I mentioned that Han Solo is just a really good card because, again, when he attacks and attacks, he is not dealt combat damage first. So if he can actually kill off the thing he's attacking, he doesn't get the combat damage back to him. If he doesn't kill off the thing he's attacking and just deals like his 6 damage, then he takes combat damage back. So it's still a very good deck. And honestly, I think Boba Fett's a little slept on. I think this is a very like tier 2, like good local scene deck, or maybe like a good rogue style deck for a lot of tournaments, because again, ambushing into your opponent when they have to play, when you're playing reactive, again, with a lot of good cards like Whaley, like Jamming, like Sparkle Rebellion to control your opponent's hand and control their board presence, and you have a lot of cards that can control board presence. You have Boba Fett to power up all your ambushers so they can knock out things. I think this deck is a little bit of a nuisance for a lot of strategies, because if you can't really establish your board presence because your opponent's just going to drop down the next ambusher and then smash into your opponent's board state, you're into your board state and ambush it all away, there's not much else you can really do at that point except like, well, hope that you can draw something that sits on the board. But yeah, congratulations to the Boba player. A little sad for the Ventress player. But nonetheless, hope you guys enjoyed once again. If you guys are looking for a Star Wars Unlimited local scene, check out Valkyrie Vault in Brownsburg, Indiana. 6 p.m. every Thursday. It's $5. You get your little promo pack, and you get a pack of the current set with more packs going to first, second, and third. But typically, no matter where you place, if you don't place in those top 3, you can always walk away with your promo pack and 1 pack of the set. Really great shop to come to. Everyone here is really good people here. Some people will play meta, some people won't play meta. It just kind of matters on their thing. We have a good mix of everyone who just wants to play deck strategies. But yeah, let me know all your thoughts down in the comments on the 2 decks. Have you tried out Boba, the Boba Heroic or Asajj? Let me know those down in the comments. Let me know anything else about the players, what they could have done better, anything like that. And while you're commenting, do make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell so you can notify when my videos go live for you. And we'll see you here next time. I'm Mom Dragons, TCG.